In Somalia, we have 2.9 million people that are facing humanitarian crisis. So these are people who are considered, according to the UN IPC, the integrated phase classifications, to be considered highly food insecure and food insecure, so that they have different grades. So these are people who really are hungry and who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Of those, about 50,000 are children who are severely malnourished, and we consider to be on death's door. 1 million people are displaced throughout the country. Polio has returned. We have about 193 cases recorded in this past year. 30% of the population has access to clean drinking water. There are various challenges that Somalia is facing. One is funding. The fact that there are other competing priorities with Central African Republic, Syria, now recently Iraq, South Sudan. They've declared, they're about to declare, I think, officially a famine. So with all of these other things going on, it's very difficult in the humanitarian community. The international donor community is overstretched. Also, I think there's something to be said about poor planning. There could have been better interventions or things that we could have done better in terms of trying to create more sustainable solutions to these problems so that they don't occur. In terms of trying to create, let's say, a large-scale social protection or safety nets program in Somalia, so that those people who are currently the 2.9 million people, if they were receiving a regular transfer, they could have been absorbing this shock that's currently happening, which is another issue. The third issue is that we have a conflict, and with the conflict, a lot of farming communities are not able to access their land, and as such, they're not obviously going to have a meager harvest. And then the fourth issue is obviously climatic. We had poor and delayed rains. In the backdrop of all of this, we have counter-terrorism legislation, which was a key part of the 2011 famine. The fact that one of the parties to the conflict was labeled a terrorist organization, and as a result of that labeling and fears of being prosecuted, a lot of NGOs, particularly American NGOs, were scared to operate in those areas. Food security and remittances, how do they interlink? Well, first of all, I just mentioned the largest cash response in history done by NGOs. About $80 million worth of cash transfers was distributed at the time of the famine by the NGO community, and that's both local NGOs and international NGOs. That was all done with the MSBs, the Somali MSBs. Without them, we couldn't have done that. I'll tell you a little bit historically about how Adeso has started to realize the importance of remittances. So those households that received remittances generally tended to be better off. They're the ones who had children in school. They were more food secure, and they were able to pay for medicine, which is obviously very important because Somalia also has one of the worst maternal health figures in the world. And all of these things, so they were able to pay for that because of the remittances. And we also saw that later we started to see that there were also communities or pockets of communities that tended to be more food insecure. Again, clans, regions, those kinds of things based on their presence. It's not scientific, but anecdotal. As Somali, I tend to see who's in the diaspora. And you know that there are certain communities that are more present in the diaspora, and those communities that are more present in the diaspora in Somalia tend to be more food secure. There's no better safety nets for the Somali households than the remittance flows. There's nothing more that gives more resilience than the remittance flows. These are Somalis helping Somalis, and there's nothing better than that. DFID is overstretched financially. I don't think that DFID wants to see another 2 more million people added to the caseload of 2.9 million people if the remittance flow stops from the US and the UK. I don't think that's in the best interest of any government. So this is one of the main reasons why we need to understand that there's a direct and very vital relationship between remittances and food security in Somalia. And I'm very hopeful that the Safe Corridor initiative done by the UK government is going to address some of these issues and hopefully keep the lifeline open. Unfortunately, the US government still has a long way to go, and we hope that the UK will lead the way, and we hope that the US government will join that initiative. But it shouldn't just be a UK initiative, it needs to become a US initiative, because the problem, as I've said in the past, started in the US, and it needs to be fixed in the US.